Hello and welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with David Mason. He's the MD at NewPeak Metals, formerly Dark Horse Resources. They talked to us about their projects in New Zealand, Argentina, Finland and Sweden. So lots of optionality. And if you want our thoughts and opinions on the conversation, the company itself, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. We can also find detailed company reports and analysis, commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of companies and commodities. There are training courses on there to help you with your diligence. We've got summaries of other interviews that we've done to save you some time because we know you're busy. And if you want to join a thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, friendly and safe environment free from trolling, judgment and abuse, you can do that at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like. That'd be appreciated. Leave your comments below. We'll get back to everyone. And if you want to see precisely what we talked about today with David, take a look in the description below. David, how are you, sir?
I'm very fine, Matthew, and very pleased to be with you here today, obviously.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us all the way from Jakarta. And I was just, we were reminiscing slightly before. So we last saw each other pre-COVID. I think it was in London. I think it was the one-to-one conference in London when life was normal. How have you been?
Pretty good. Sitting in a seat in a particular city or country rather than traveling around the world, that's probably the biggest change. But you start getting used to it, and you get used to speaking with people like this on Zoom and other video conferencing. But look, Jakarta is where I'm at the moment. I was in Brisbane for most of the months of January, February, but back here now. And, it's a great location for basing oneself to travel around the world. Singapore's just across the sea, and Singapore's a great hub for getting into America or getting into Europe. And that's where we're focusing on at the moment.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. So we've not had a COVID update from Jakarta. I get COVID updates every day. I think I'm an epicenter for COVID updates. So what's happening there? What are the restrictions? How are they dealing with it?
Yeah. Well, it's one of these countries that you're not 100% sure how good quality is the testing, the information that you're getting. You're certainly not going to get tested to the same degree here in Indonesia as you would have, say, in the UK or Australia or elsewhere. So there's very minimal testing, and perhaps subsequently there's not so many cases of COVID. There's various stories about why that might be. It's a warm climate. We don't have the cold. We don't have the winters like yourselves in Northern Europe and in the Northern Hemisphere. But COVID is one of those things, I think, where you have to manage it yourself and be responsible for yourself and those around you. And I think if you do look after yourself and you consider it for others and your communities, we can all get along, and I think we'll get beyond this quicker than normal. The vaccines will obviously help. We don't see much of it at the moment, but boy, I have to say, I've been watching a bit of news in the UK. You guys are really you're really getting the jab now.
yeah. I think it's the one thing perhaps with regards to COVID we are getting right. After the event.
Yeah.
Well, look, we are here to talk about NewPeak Metals, which is the revitalized version of Dark Horse when we spoke a couple of years ago. So why don't you give us a 1-minute overview of what it is that your company is trying to be, and then we'll dive into some questions.
Yeah, okay, great. Certainly, Matthew. So look, I am the Managing Director and CEO of NewPeak Metals, which is our new brand. We're an Australian-listed resource company, and we've got a prime focus on gold throughout the world. We've been operating in Argentina for a number of years, and we're actually currently drilling in Argentina at a very prominent project of ours, Catchy Gold Project. But we've moved into newer jurisdictions. So we acquired some gold properties in Finland, some multi-element metal properties in Sweden, going back 9 months ago. We're starting to advance those now, and we've moved into the South Island of New Zealand in the Otago goldfields. So we find ourselves quite widespread in different geographic jurisdictions. There's obviously some challenges in that, but they're all very good jurisdictions for exploration and mining, very large gold resources, gold mines in all of those countries. Our main objective really is implementing quality exploration programs to achieve a discovery. And we're targeting a tier 1 world-class precious metal, gold, silver resource in these jurisdictions.
So how should people label you? Are you a project generator?
Yeah, certainly. So, well, we have been 2020. Certainly, you'd consider us as a project generator, but we're satisfied with the projects we have at the moment. We believe they've all got extremely good potential. So now is a focus on actually exploration and that discovery that I was referring to.
Okay, so thanks for the overview. First of all, obviously since we last spoke, you picked up a bunch of new projects, and as a project generator, that's what you need. But perhaps you need to explain what that model is and how you create value for your shareholders with that model.
Okay, so yeah, look, we're rather expansive, being in a number of different world jurisdictions, and there is some challenges for managing and, of course, funding these. But I guess we're big and long-term thinkers. You've got to have optionality, in today's world. So, mineral resource projects, you can go through tens, often hundreds of projects before one might actually come to realization. So, you've got to work through that you've got to have smart people, you've got to have smart technical people, engineering people working for you. You've got to have good management and really strong leadership. So, we pride ourselves on these things. We've got an impeccable record for discovering very large tier one gold resources, precious metal resources, energy resources, and other strategic critical metals. Within our leadership team, which is our directors and our senior executives. So we believe we have the team to do this. To be able to manage in these different jurisdictions. Look, we've implemented exploration drilling programs in Argentina over the last 6 months and New Zealand remotely, whilst we're sitting in Jakarta or Brisbane, wherever we might be. We've got some really good networks out there. We've got teams working in the field. We've got drilling results coming through. So we're moving forward as if COVID era didn't actually exist, and having great success of that. But principally, we generated those projects. We're now diligently working on those projects. We're heading towards discovery. We'll then go into resource definition, and we believe that this year we will have achieved that. And you'll see a re-rating in NewPeak in terms of its market cap and share price.
Okay, that bit interests me because it's been fairly flatline news for a few years, right? So the change of name, change of model is important because something needed to give, right? So should we start with, let's do a couple of things. So I want to talk about the people, because you talk about impeccable track records. So I want to touch upon that, and then I would like to move on to the sort of structure of the company as it stands with 5 billion shares out. I want to understand how that's going to move. So talk to me about these impeccable track records. From who? What? Okay,
well, I'll start with my chairman, Nick Mather. I think he's fairly well known in the resource industry. He runs DGR Global. It's our largest shareholder, so it's about a 10% shareholder. Nick, of course, is also CEO of SolGold. SolGold's a copper gold resource company operating in Ecuador and northern South America. They've had some exceptional success, and Nick's really taken that company to some quite high levels and achieved some great things. So Nick Mather's my chairman. He's a great leader, and he's an incredible strategic thinker. So great to have on the board. Great to have there as a sounding board, and he gives me a lot of direction, and then I guess I add to that and then implement these things. Neil Stewart, he's a geologist. Had a great deal of success in South America, in Africa, in Asia and Australia. He and I came into NewPeak 5 or 6 years ago. He's retired now, but he's had some exceptional successes. Serra Negra, multi-million ounce gold resource project and mine in southern Argentina, nearby where our Cachi project is. Neil actually was very instrumental in moving that project forward to where it is today. He was also the founding director and a major shareholder of Australian lithium brine producer, also in Argentina, Orocobre. So he's put that together. And I think when we last spoke, we were in that lithium space a little. We decided to move out of that space. The commodity prices of lithium have sort of been up and down a little bit, and it's got a great future. But NewPeak decided not to continue to pursue that and to principally focus on gold. And then I've got a great exploration team around me, exploration manager both in Australia, in Argentina, in Finland, in New Zealand. They're high quality geoscientists, very professional in the way they design and plan our exploration programs, and excellent managers in managing the implementation of those programs for success. So look, I'm really pleased. This is not a David Mason company. I'm a member of a team, and it's really a team effort, that brings some of these things to fruition and realization.
Are you paying those guys with cash?
No, not all of them. So the directors, not at all, including myself as the CEO. So for the last 3 or 4 years, pretty well all the directors' fees and certainly the absolute majority of my remuneration has been converted to stock. So we are preserving our cash resources in that. Cash is obviously a key. We can raise several $1 million at any one point, but we're implementing drilling programs. They cost money. We prefer to see that cash spent in the ground. So directors, senior management, many of the senior management are taking stock. They're following the example of the directors, and that's really comfortable and comforting certainly for myself. I'm actually a 7% a shareholder now, so I've increased my shareholding in the company because I have sacrificed that cash remuneration, and some of the other senior executives are 1%, 2%, 3% shareholders as well because they've followed suit.
Right. Okay. You just raised some money in the market.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
So it was just over 1.6 million. 1.4 came out of Australia, mostly new investors. So there's a bit of Australian and Singapore investment there. But 200,000 came out of Europe. We've got a strategy now of dual listing in Frankfurt, in Germany. Because of our Northern European projects, we feel that there's a lot of interest in NewPeak. In Europe, there's a lot of money in Europe. I've done a bit of marketing in the UK and in Europe over the last few years, and I believe that listing in Frankfurt will give us the opportunity to get some fresh funds and some new faces and new investors into NewPeak, and I believe that's going to have quite a significant effect on our capital structure and on our value.
Yeah, I think with the European assets, I think that really makes a lot of sense. The thing that they're going to have to get used to is 5 billion shares out. That's an Aussie thing. Even 5 billion is sort of a bit toppy for an Aussie firm. So are you going to do anything about that?
Well, okay, yeah, certainly. 5 billion stock. The board's discussed this on several occasions, and we do have a strategy to consolidate the capital structure. Normally one would do that on a rising share price. So, history has shown us that if your share price is static, it's not a very prudent thing to do. So we'll wait till our share price starts increasing on the back of the news flow that we'll be getting now and over the next number of months throughout this year from the drilling programs that we're implementing. Our European investors are questioning me on that, and I tell them that story. But many Australian companies have got lots of shares out there. I mean, we have almost a 30% investment in Lakes Oil. It's an Australian oil and gas exploration company. It's a very big investment for us. And they've got 30 billion. So we own 10 billion stock of their 30 plus billion stock. So, but it doesn't really matter whether we own, 30% of 30 billion stock or 30% of 100 million stock. The pie is still the same size.
Yeah, it's just one of those bizarre things that Australians seem to understand, but the rest of the world don't, because it's one of the first questions that people look at. They do get concerned about it. Well, let's start talking about some of these projects, because I think the way you've laid it out, you've got multiple projects, and you can look at it as positive. You can say that we've got great optionality. But it's also a huge liability when you've not got much cash. You've got to be very clear to the market about where you're going to focus your dollars, why those dollars are going to drive value or going to contribute towards a growth story. So can you break it down for us? What are you going to spend your time, money, and effort on?
Yeah, certainly, and pleased to do so. Look, it's a great question. We're operating only in Argentina, but we found Argentina, the jurisdiction got a little bit difficult in 2019. So we saw a really good reason for expanding outside of Argentina into other jurisdictions, focusing on gold. So we moved into Northern Europe, and we moved into New Zealand, and we made acquisitions, and we've applied for new permits in those jurisdictions as well. So three jurisdictions: Argentina, New Zealand, Finland, principally. Three balls in the air, if you like. However, there's several balls in the air in each one of those countries. Two really good projects in Argentina, a number of projects in New Zealand, and similarly in Finland. At this early phase of discovery, which is the phase we're in, we're not yet in full resource definition. Okay, in the discovery phase, you only have smaller drilling programs which are lower cost. It's not until you actually get to that discovery and then you are starting to prove the size and the grade of the resource, which is a fairly mechanical process in many respects. What we're doing is the really strategic thinking side of the business. Where do we drill? Which project do we focus on? All these sorts of things, and these things are turning around in our mind continuously. But it's not a large cost. We're implementing small drilling. If we hit, move it on, and it goes into the resource definition phase. If we're not going to hit something good, we'll park that project, or we'll relinquish that project and move to the next one. So we've got this suite or portfolio of projects. We've got lots of optionality in different jurisdictions. We have sufficient funds to be drilling in Cachi, Las Peñas in Argentina, Capburn, Garibaldi and Carrick in New Zealand, Hupiavari and Samaro in Finland. We've got the funds to do that. I'm talking $500,000 for a reasonable, good look at one of those particular targets, one of those projects. So, we'll raise a couple of $1 million at each time. That might go over a 6-month period. And then in another 6-month period, we'll go back to the market and raise some more. That's more than sufficient to move us through that phase until we hit discovery. And if we do hit discovery, those projects will fund themselves. If you've got a good project, a good gold project, which is showing the signs of being a tier 1 multi-million ounce resource, the money just comes flowing into the company. Experience has showed that.
Right. But it hasn't to date. So Argentina has been a difficult jurisdiction for lots of reasons, depending on which province you're in as well. I guess it's easier or harder. What gives you the confidence that anything's going to change in Argentina?
Oh, well, things have changed. So I mentioned 2019 was a difficult time. So they had a change of president, a complete change of government. They ran into some financial economic difficulties again, and they've cleaned themselves up over the last 18 months. So come late 2020, early 2021, all the big mining companies are all back in Argentina, particularly in southern Argentina, where we are in Cachi, in the Santa Cruz province. You've got the Barracks, you've got the Yamanas, the Anglo Gold Ashantis, they're all working there. And some medium-sized ones. Challenger, for instance, at their Julian project, had some great successes there over the last 6 to 12 months. So our Las Peñas project is probably not dissimilar to that Julian Challenger project. And, we've got plans to drill that coming up over the next couple of months. And we're really excited that we might also get something really quite interesting. We've proved it on the surface. I mean, it's incredibly high-grade gold and silver, 50 grams per tonne, 3 kilograms of silver on certain samples that we've discovered sitting on the surface. We just need to drill down underneath to prove that system is fertile at depth. And then, we've got ourselves 500,000 ounce gold deposit or larger.
Okay, I'll come back to how we move these projects on in a second. So I want people to understand, your motivation and your exit plans and all of those wonderful things. But let's talk about some of the other projects first. So you've got Finland and Sweden. Now, Finland's obviously about gold, which you've said is, I guess, more topical at the moment than Sweden, which is tungsten, which is perhaps not flavour of the month at the moment. So again, what do you know about the Finnish asset, or how you're going to approach it?
So actually in Finland, we acquired a portfolio of gold properties in southern Finland around Tampere goldfields. There's some operating mines there by Dragon, which is a Hong Kong listed company. And Sotkamo, the Finnish company that we acquired these assets from, it was developing a silver mine. And the management wanted to focus only on that. So these gold projects were actually just a distraction for it. We picked them up at a very reasonable price. Discovery's actually been already made at one of those projects in Finland, the Hopiovaari project. They and the Geological Survey have drilled there previously, and they've had intersections 10 and 15 meters thick, running 10 and 15 grams per tonne. So they are very anomalous drilling results. What that project just needs is more drilling to expand the resource. So it's really, the discoveries there, we'll be doing more resource definition work. Last month, we acquired a group of another group of southern Finland gold properties from Sunstone, Australian listed company. They're focusing on Ecuador. There's a lot of people operating, obviously, in Ecuador these last year or two. So again, it was a bit of a distraction for Sunstone. We picked up their assets, and they've got a project, Samaro. It's also got drilling intersections. They've got an intersection 20 meters of thickness, running about 2 to 3 grams per tonne of gold. So again, these are commercial gold intersection and values if you can prove the size of these things. So again, it's more a resource definition style of project, and that's our intentions in Finland.
Okay, and again, just to kind of go through the projects, New Zealand, you've got 4 projects as well. So again, how are you approaching those?
Just to finish off Northern Europe, if I may, Matthew, okay, Sweden. Sure. So it is known as a tungsten project, but we released some early results just this week. We did a little bit of exploration, surface exploration in December in Sweden, and it's proven that it's got tungsten, copper, molybdenum, tin. So, we've got copper values over 2% copper. We've got high molybdenum, we've got tin in the system, and there's there's 0.2, 0.3 grams of gold. So it's actually a multi-element project. We labeled it tungsten because we acquired it in that way. But the early work that we've done shows that it's got some multi-elements and minerals. And, look, there's a number of those minerals that are the flavour of the month. Tin, for example, copper, of course, and if it's got gold in there as well, we believe we're in a really interesting geological region.
Okay, so I thought you'd discount it because you only named New Zealand, Finland, and Argentina at the beginning. Okay, so Sweden is on the table, so 4 regions, right? Okay, should we talk about New Zealand? Those 4 projects there.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one major project, Capburn, which we're earning into. We took 75% up front, but we'll earn 100% as we move along. We drilled in December. It was just an early start to the program. Rig availability actually is very difficult worldwide at the moment. So you can't just sort of ring up a drilling company and get a drilling rig to come and start next week or next month. In Argentina, or South America, in Australia, New Zealand, in Europe, rig demand is just quite incredible at the moment. So being a small company, we don't have the kudos and the as a big company would that can lay 20,000 meters of drilling on the table. We're asking for 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 meters size programs, and so we take a bit of second priority. So regrettably, we only managed to get the rig back working in New Zealand last week. So we've had a couple of months hiatus, but it's back there and it's working. And Capburn is starting to look really good. It's adjacent to OceanaGold's Macraes mine. Macraes mine's been operating for 20 plus years. It operates at about 200,000 ounces a year production of gold. And it's got still plus 3 million ounces of JORC resources defined sitting in the ground. And we've got that project drilling at the moment, and we've made application for 7 new exploration permits in New Zealand. We're waiting in that area of Otago nearby Capburn. We're waiting for those to be granted. We expect that to happen. It's a process. So it'll happen over the next number of months to 6 months, and then we'll start systematic exploration on some of those. Two really important ones there are Carrick and Garibaldi. Both have had a substantial amount of work. There is a lot of gold in the system in both those projects. So I guess we're looking forward to be able to getting on the ground, reviewing all the previous work, designing our own exploration programs, getting them implemented.
I'm almost overwhelmed by how much is going on, okay? Which is, like I say, a good thing and a bad thing in the sense that if I can't wrap my head around it, I'm kind of struggle to know what I'm investing into. So I need to talk about the plan, or at least how you approach monetizing this, because you're doing a little bit of work, so a little bit more than just a greenfield site. So you say, well, we've got a sense of what's going on at surface or, underground to some degree, but there's not a lot of drilling, not a lot of meters. So is the idea to bring in partners, to have earn-ins, to go and raise the capital yourself? You can't do that for all projects. So how do you break this down? How do you go from, well, you seem to have ranged from 10 to 20 million bucks, depending on the day of the week, in terms of market cap, right? And in a gold environment like this, where perhaps the shine's slightly come off of it in the last couple of months, what's the plan? How do you grow? Why should shareholders be looking at this and going, do you know what? I think they've finally got to a point where I actually understand what they're doing. I understand how they're going to move forward. I understand where the value is coming from. So how do you explain that?
Okay. So, well, the first thing is the optionality. Okay. We've already made the discoveries on surface. So all we need to do is to prove that they are at depth. Okay. The gold grades and the silver grades, they're on the surface. We've done that work over the last 2 or 3 years, or other companies have done that on our behalf. So a number of drill holes in some of these projects, we get discovery because we've proved that they are fertile. They have gold grades of depth. When we hit that point, that project essentially becomes a standalone project. We will look at an earn-in partner. We may look at a trade sale. We may look at just funding at the equity level of that project. We have structured everything such that NewPeak has got a whole series of different subsidiaries in these different countries. And we are very flexible in the way that we can monetize or raise capital for that individual project. So I hope that answers the question sort of succinctly.
Yeah, that really helps. So when you say optionality, because again, it's a word just bandied around, is you're saying each project has the ability to be monetized at different stages. But we've got to rely on your ability to work out which ones, at what time, in which order, and then I guess utilize that money to enhance the projects which you do want to retain some level of control on going forward. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, look, we're not control freaks. We're here for the shareholders, not for ourselves. I think that we will get discovery. I mean, Cachi, for instance, in Argentina is looking superb. I don't think we've got far to go before that one is up and running. And we've got another couple of thousand meters that we're drilling at the moment. I think we will get there. And then, look, we've got some of the big boys that have been speaking to us about the Argentine projects, and they've been in due diligence on those projects now for over 12 months. So we've got this sort of earn-in ability or process already happening. Whether we go down that line or not, we'll make the decision that we believe is best for the shareholders at the time. But we have that ability to be able to bring these guys in if they so choose, and we choose as well.
Why is it taking 12 months to do diligence?
The larger companies operate fairly slowly, and they've been waiting for us to commence the drilling. So we couldn't get the drilling done last year. Now that we're drilling, we've had them on site. They've been down there with our exploration team, and they will sit back and wait till we make that discovery. These gentlemen, they've got their own objectives. I mean, they're large companies, and there's a lot of competition for projects out there. So, they've got their eyes on a lot of different things. But when that project has success, they'll be knocking on the door and looking to do something with us.
Right. Okay. So I just want to be clear. So maybe diligence isn't the right word. They're aware of your project. You've had discussions with them. When you've done what you need to do, they'll be back in having a look. Is that what's happening?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Well, understood.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I say, thank you for going through that, because there's so much. We were doing the research, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm doing more work on this than I do for some big companies, because there's so many moving parts. So that's really interesting, and I'm trying to work out whether or not you have not really let go of Argentina as the kind of your child project.
Not at all. No.
Right. Okay. Because it kind of feels like you've picked up some great optionality elsewhere in the world, which you think you can monetize and then bring it back and work in Argentina. But you're saying right now, all projects are open for any form of monetization at the right time.
Yeah. No. Argentina is a prime objective of ours. It was off the radar for a year or so ago, but it's back on the radar because Argentina is a great place for a mining investment at the moment. And we believe that this Cachi project and the Las Peñas projects are going to really be company makers. But that's not having, but Finland and New Zealand, they'll be there as well. We will put schemes in place, funding schemes, corporate schemes to allow us to have success in each of these projects or these countries. As a board, we have a lot of experience in the capital side and the corporate structural side of the business. Not just we're just not explorers. We're entrepreneurs. If you like, we're geoscientist entrepreneurs. But we've all got quite incredible business skills. What we're interested in doing is making money for the shareholders, which includes ourselves. We have a lot invested in NewPeak, and we'll make the prudent decision for our shareholders as to which path we would follow. If New Zealand doesn't work out, we'll be leaving it behind. If Finland's the same thing, Argentina. As I said, this mineral exploration game, there's a lot of risk, and you can turn over many different projects before you actually get the big one. That's just our business. We're very good at it. We've had a lot of experience in it, and as a board, we'll ensure that we'll get that success happening.
Brilliant, David. Appreciate your time. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on.
Okay. Thanks very much, Matthew. Cheers. Been a pleasure.